A tropical storm set off flooding and a landslide in the southern Philippines, leaving at least 4 people dead, displacing more than 6,000 and trapping residents in houses in 2 flooded villages, officials said Friday. Tropical storm Penha slammed ashore onto the southeastern province of Surigao del Sur from the Pacific late Thursday. It was last tracked Friday around noon off central Bohol province with sustained winds of up to 55 kilometers, 34 miles per hour, and gusts of up to 70 kilometers per hour, 43 miles per hour, according to forecasters. A couple and 2 children died Thursday night when their shanty was hit by a landslide in a quarry area that was set off by torrential rains in a village in southern Cagayan de Oro City, Office of Civil Defense Regional Director Antonio Sugarol said. In southern Iligan City, about 55 kilometers, 34 miles, southwest of Cagayan de Oro, a resident called the DZMM radio network Friday and pleaded to be rescued from the second floor of her house as floodwater rose and trapped her and 3 other family members. Rescuers are on the way, Sugarol told the frantic resident over the radio, saying other families were being rescued in the villages of Mahayahai and Tubod in Iligan City. More than 6,000 villagers were displaced due to the storm, including 5,800 who moved to evacuation centers in southern and central provinces. Classes were suspended in many areas, the Office of Civil Defense said. Nearly 5,000 passengers and cargo workers were stranded in 94 seaports after inter-island passenger ferries and cargo ships were temporarily prohibited from venturing into rough seas, the Philippine Coast Guard said. The storm, which has a 660-kilometer, 410-mile wide rain and wind band, hit ahead of summer when the least number of storms lashed the Philippine archipelago, government forecaster Robert Badrina said. Penha was forecast to weaken into a tropical depression later Friday as it blows northwestward across central island provinces toward the western Palawan province, the country's weather agency said. The Philippines is battered by about 20 typhoons and storms each year. The country also is often hit by earthquakes and has more than a dozen active volcanoes, making it one of the world's most disaster-prone countries. The Mandalog River that overflowed in December 2011 that claimed so many lives did not do as much damage. It was Tubod River, about 4 kilometers down south between barangays Mahayahai and Tubod, that wreaked havoc starting late Thursday night. At 11:45 p.m. Wednesday, the Iligan City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, ICDRRMO, posted on its Facebook page that the Tubod Bridge was not passable to all types of vehicles. The bridge is situated in Iligan's major highway connecting the city to the west, including the cities of Marawi, Pagadian, Ozamis, and Zamboanga. At 7:14 a.m. Friday, the ICDRRMO posted an update that the bridge was still not passable, with an accompanying picture of the bridge covered in debris. JP Albulario, known for his Facebook posts of the water level of the river below the Tubod Bridge during strong rains because he lives only a stone's throw away, said it was the first time he saw the floodwaters rose this high in his 48 years of stay in Barangay Tubod. He had several pictures and video clips of the river and the bridge posted all day Thursday until morning. In his 11:25 p.m. post that showed the water almost at the level of the bridge, he said, "Praying na dili mo overflow sa bridge ang tubig." His next post came about an hour later. "Sorry di na ko ka-update. Nag-secure pa ako diri balay. Hapit na musulod sa balay." Then followed by pictures of muddy water inside his house, various items in disarray. His post early morning Friday showed floodwaters still at the level of Tubod Bridge, with debris piled up all over. "Grabe ang debris. Probably one of the reasons nga no daghan na damay sa baha," JP lamented. Dixie Padaranga, whose house in Barangay Mahayahai, not far from the Tubod River, was inundated during Sendong, was once again flooded up to the second floor. She had the foresight to evacuate her 3 sons and her parents to safer ground, to her sister, and to La Salle Academy where she teaches, as early as 2 p.m. Thursday. Only her elder brother Vincent was left behind to look after their belongings. "I have no worry about him because he's with the Navy," she told Minda News in a phone interview. The flood control dike built on both sides of the Tubod River after Sendong was not able to serve its purpose this time as floodwaters overflowed. When Dixie tried to go back to her house at 8 a.m. Friday morning to bring food for her brother, she still could not get through because the water current was still strong. Carrie Abad, who lives at Andrada compound in Mahayahai, about half a kilometer away from Tubod Bridge, left his house at 11 p.m. and knocked on the doors of Renee's diner and pension house nearby for shelter. Around 50 of them from the neighborhood, including his entire family, were accommodated at the establishment's second floor. Although floodwaters did not enter his home, he said it was higher than Sendong. G. Calantes, who works for the non-governmental organization Pakigdite Incorporated, abandoned their home in Purok Riverside in Barangay Palau past midnight when they noticed the flood was unlike the normal floods they had experienced in the past 6 years since staying in the area. Neighbors said that the flood was more than Sendong, she said over telephone. All 5 of them in the family sought refuge in a church his brother-in-law is attending. Jaj D. Perfecto, who lives in a compound with relatives not far from the Mandulog River in Lambaguhon, Barangay San Roque, said they were totally safe and dry as Basyang inundated parts of Iligan. He theorized that the new bridge that replaced the one that collapsed during Sendong is high enough that it did not block debris flowing down the river. He recalled that during Sendong, the water level was about a foot higher than the family's Toyota Innova. His motorcycle disappeared in the flood as they all climbed up the second floor for safety. In December 2011, thousands of logs, some illegally cut, some uprooted by the typhoon, were trapped underneath the bridge, creating the effect of a dam that caused the water to rise gradually, inundating Barangays San Roque and Hinaplanan, situated on the other side of the river. When the bridge could not anymore withstand the constant battering of the logs, it collapsed, and floodwaters came rushing down, the flash flood killing hundreds downstream, as sleeping residents could not anymore have the time to react. Among the areas in Iligan with the most fatalities during Sendong was Orchid Homes, situated by the mouth of the Mandalog River. The government has since built a flood control project on both sides of the river, including the Mandalog River Esplanade that has now become a favorite site for runners and hikers, or anybody who just wants to enjoy the breeze from the river and the sea. Confident that the area is now secure because of the flood control project, photographer George Cipriano moved back to Orchid Homes in 2019. He originally stayed there years before Sendong, sold his house to someone else who was unfortunate to suffer the big flood, and bought it back later. Cipriano had a good sleep Thursday night, but waken up by his wife at 4:30 a.m. because of the ruckus in the neighborhood. He walked to the esplanade and posted a live update on Facebook, showing the strong current of Mandalog River. "Fortunately, there was no flood in our subdivision," he said. Mark James Abatago, whose house not far from Mandalog River in Sitio Bayog was flooded during Sendong, said the effect was less than the 2011 flood, thanks to the flood control project. He came home in November 2011 after working as a nurse in the United Kingdom. Then Sendong came less than a month later, wiping all the savings he earned at that time. Abatago is thankful that he and his young family are safe now. Mud, stones, and pebbles are among the debris that greeted many families here on Friday, the morning after Tropical Storm Basyang poured its fury through heavy rains that brought flooding to a big swathe of the city. In other low-lying villages, like urban Barangay Mahayahai, floodwaters had not yet dissipated as of Friday morning, sending many families to their second-story houses or to evacuation centers. Continuous heavy rain had led to a swelling of the Tubod River on Thursday night, prompting the Department of Public Works and Highways to temporarily close the bridge along the national highway spanning across it. As of this reporting, the bridge is not yet passable with the accumulated litter and debris brought by last night's rampaging waters. At its height early on Friday, the floodwaters rose some 3 feet, carrying away parked vehicles. Landslides were also reported by netizens seeking help to clear the roads in Pugan, Mandulog, and Lambaguhan villages. In a press advisory, the local government said residents in the villages of Tubod, Tambacan, Mahayahay, Abuno, Tipanoy, Hinaplanon, Poblacion, Palau, Saray, and Ubaldo de Laya had sought the help of rescuers. In Manichao Town, Misamis Oriental, families have been evacuated to the municipal government compound due to flooding, landslides, and the threat of big waves. Mayor Stephen Tan said the count of evacuees documented by social workers as of 10:30 a.m. was 83, from only 3 of 6 affected villages. Flooding was experienced in Poblacion, Tuod, Kamanga, Cabalantian, and Panyangan villages. Landslides were also reported in Tuod. Families in the coastal village of Punta Silam were preemptively evacuated on Thursday as huge waves battered their houses and community. As of 9 a.m., the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office noted that the water in the river was still rising. Hence, they prevented the evacuees from flood-prone areas from returning home. A total of 1,258 families, or 4,697 individuals from 21 barangays in Iligan City, displaced by flooding caused by Tropical Storm Basyang, have sought refuge at 23 evacuation centers as of 9:30 a.m. Friday, an official said. The evacuees have been given initial food assistance, Evelyn Madrio, head of the City Social Welfare and Development Office, CSWDO, said. The Emergency Operations Center based at Iligan City Hall, led by Armian Aloro, deployed emergency responders to various areas affected by flash floods. The center and CSWDO were still counting the number of families in different evacuation centers. Meanwhile, Tubod Bridge between barangays Mahayahay and Tubod has been closed to traffic starting 1:30 a.m. Friday after it overflowed due to heavy rains brought by Basyang. The closure was implemented by the Department of Public Works and Highways Lone Engineering District of Iligan. The Iligan City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, chaired by Mayor Frederick Siao, has ordered a 2-day suspension of classes from February 5th to 6th. We are on top of the situation. In the case of Barangay Mahayahay, the residents have been given an advice to evacuate days ahead, but sad to say, some of them refused to leave their homes, Siao told Minda News in a phone interview. He said a resident died from cardiac arrest. The mayor said they were overwhelmed due to lack of personnel, and rescue operations were briefly suspended on Thursday night to assess the safety of the responders. Siao said they have been proposing to DPWH to fund a dredging project for a landmass near Tubod Bridge that has narrowed the waterway. This will minimize flooding in Mahayahay, but sad to note that DPWH has so many requirements. Grabe ka kote kaayo, it's too cumbersome, he added. The flood swept away vehicles and filled the main streets of the city with garbage and debris. At 2:13 a.m. Friday, the alarm system of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council sent a warning to mobile phone users of the incoming heavy rainfall in Lanao del Norte and Iligan. John Paul Alindo, a resident, said a relative of his in Sitio Malindawag, Barangay Abuno, showed a video of the Bailey Bridge and 2 houses in Malindawag and Panol Iran being washed out. Citing State Weather Bureau Pagasa, Abeliza Manzano, Chief of Lanao del Norte Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office, said over 200 millimeters of rain from Basyang contributed to the flooding in Iligan. There was no heavy rainfall in the province, but we are still monitoring the weather conditions, Manzano said. Authorities are fast-tracking the clearing of a massive amount of debris dumped on the Tubod Bridge here by rampaging waters on Thursday night. The Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH, on Friday, deployed maintenance crews and heavy equipment to the bridge where fallen trees, coconuts, plastic bottles, mud, rocks, among others, piled up to block the national highway spanning across the Tubod River. Responders from the military and the Iligan City local government had joined the effort. deploying their own personnel and equipment. Trees had to be cut into pieces with chainsaws so they could be easily loaded into dump trucks. DPWH-10 said its crew is also declogging canals to ensure that water flows to rivers and creeks and onto the sea to dissipate the flood. DPWH-10 had advised motorists to use the C3 diversion road while the Tubod section of the highway is impassable. Meanwhile, the agency announced that the mountain road from Villanueva town to Gingoog City in Misamis Oriental, passing by Claveria town, has been reopened. The road leads to tourist spots in Claveria and is an alternate route to Gingoog. It was temporarily closed on Thursday due to landslide threats amid the heavy rains. Tropical storm Basyang, Penha, made its first landfall in Bayabas, Surigao del Sur, at 11:50 p.m. on Thursday, February 5th, bringing torrential rain and strong winds. As of 1 a.m. on Friday, February 6th, Basyang was already in the vicinity of Cabadbaran City, Agusan del Norte, moving west-northwest at 25 kilometers per hour. The tropical storm's maximum sustained winds slightly eased from 75 kilometers per hour to 65 kilometers per hour as it hit land, while its gustiness is still up to 90 kilometers per hour. In a bulletin issued at 2 a.m. on Friday, the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, said that from Mindanao, Basyang is projected to cross the Bohol Sea, then pass close to or make landfall again in Cebu and Negros Oriental. Afterwards, it could emerge over the Sulu Sea by Friday evening, then cross the northern portion of Palawan between Saturday afternoon and evening, February 7th. As early as Friday evening, Basyang could already weaken further into a tropical depression. By Sunday afternoon or evening, February 8th, it might just be a low-pressure area. Despite the slight weakening, Basyang is still dumping significant rain in more than 30 provinces. Floods and landslides are likely. Cebu City was placed under Tropical Cyclone Wind Signal, TCWS, number 2 on Friday, February 6th, as Tropical Storm Basyang maintained its strength and continued to affect Central Visayas. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, raised signal number 2 over Cebu City and other parts of central and southern Cebu as of 5 a.m. Warning of gale force winds ranging from 62 to 88 kilometers per hour within the next 24 hours. In response, Mayor Nestor Archival ordered the temporary suspension of all in-person classes in Cebu City for February 6th, following the recommendation of the Cebu City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, CCDRRMC. The suspension covers all levels, including early childhood, elementary, secondary, tertiary, technical vocational, and graduate programs, in both public and private schools. Schools were directed to shift to modular learning systems or other alternative modalities in line with guidelines from the Department of Education, DepEd, the Commission on Higher Education, CHED, and the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, TESDA. City Hall said the decision was made to protect students, teachers, and school personnel amid the threat of heavy rainfall, flooding, and strong winds brought by the storm. Aside from Cebu City, signal number 2 also covers Lapu-Lapu City, Mandaue City, Talisay City, Toledo City, Naga City, and the municipalities of Minglanilla, Consolacion, Liloan, and Cordova, as well as several towns in southern Cebu. The rest of the province remains under signal number 1. As of 7 a.m. Friday, the center of the storm was estimated over the coastal waters of Surigao del Norte and was moving west-northwest at 20 kilometers per hour. Weather forecasters said the storm might pass near or make landfall over Bohol, southern Cebu, or Negros Oriental before weakening into a tropical depression by tonight or early Saturday. Cebuanos were warned to brace for moderate to occasionally heavy rainfall, with PAGASA forecasting up to 200 millimeters of rain over the province due to the combined effects of Tropical Storm Basyang and a prevailing shear line. A separate flood advisory flagged the possibility of flooding along several waterways, including rivers and tributaries in Kotkot, Mananga, Guinabasan, Balamban, and Subangdaku, especially in low-lying and flood-prone communities. Pagasa urged local disaster risk reduction and management offices to remain on high alert for potential flash floods and landslides, particularly in mountainous and coastal areas exposed to strong winds.